Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. There's going to be another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today I'm going to be able to present to you guys something that I don't think I've actually shown before on my channel, which is pretty wild. This is a speed tune that's been around for a little bit in my Discord under my New Tunes Found channel. It's a pretty popular little tune, actually. My mods really like it. People that have built it seem to really enjoy it, and I thought I had done one on this, but I went back to look and see if I had a video and I couldn't find it. So if I did one, please point it out to me in the comments below. But I think you guys are going to get a real kick out of this because we're going to bring in Helicath and we're going to bring in Maneater for an unkillable team for you guys. And I think this might be the best version of that available. In fact, this might be one of the best Helicath version teams that is out there. I don't know that the team I showed today, the way I built it, the champions I've used, is going to fully showcase that for you guys. But there is a really high damage potential because we've got everybody, and I mean everybody, going at least a 4-3 ratio, plus Maneater going at a 5-3 ratio. So we're able to stay unkillable with Maneater for the second AoE and the stun, not only being unkillable but blocking the debuff, and then Helicath's going to keep us unkillable for that first AoE, which is just remarkable. So I think there's a lot of really strong potential with this team and a lot of good damage we're going to get out of it. On top of that, it's a team perfect for things like ally attack. So if you have a lot of ally attack champions, Longbeard, Farak and the Fat, Kreela, this is a great team to kind of utilize with them. And I will point this out, there is a version to be able to use this with Ninja too, and I'm going to be showcasing that one tomorrow. So if you want to know how to do that, just wait, and I'll have it there. Of course, if you do want to see this tune in its full thing, I do have it on my website as always, so you can go check that out, read up on it, and figure out all the stuff you need to be able to build this team for yourself. That'll be linked down below also. I just want to remind you guys, if you haven't done it already, please take a moment, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you don't miss when these new teams come out for you. When I bring something new to the table, you want to be the first one there to see it. Don't miss out, hit that notification bell. And of course, if you enjoyed today's music, we have that Soundstripe link down below in the pinned comment and description of today's video, as well as I want to remind you, hit up the website. That's where all this information is stored. Basically everything I show you here on YouTube is shared there on the website, so it's a great place to learn more about this game, speed tune your teams, get access to both the speed calculator for clan boss as well as arena. Very valuable stuff for you guys to make your accounts that much stronger. Now, normally in these clan boss videos, I'm going to show you guys the gear ahead of time, and then we'll go into the run. I think for today, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the team and kind of go over the basics, and then I'm going to show you the speed tune so you know how it works, because it's a little bit more complex than many of the speed tunes we actually do. And then we'll go ahead and come back, and I'll go ahead and talk about the gear afterwards. So really quickly here, we've got Martyr, we've got Seeker, we've got Maneater, we've got Helicath, and we've got Kreela Witcharm. Kreela is going to bring us that ally attack ability, which is just phenomenal. Helicath, of course, is going to make us unkillable, but just for one turn. That's really all we need Helicath for. More importantly, Helicath just does great damage, so enough accuracy and enough damage to do the job. That's what we're looking for there. Maneater is the one that's really going to keep us unkillable for both the second AoE and the stun, as well as block that damage. And then Seeker is going to give us that turn meter boost so we can make the crazy speeds we need to make for this team. And then very last, of course, Martyr is in there. Martyr does bring counterattack, but because of the way this team works, we're not actually going to benefit from it that much. But what Martyr will be bringing for us is increased defense to help the damage both her and Helicath, as well as that decreased defense on her A1, which is something we are going to be enacting and probably disabling her A3 ability once it comes to the actual run, so we can get a lot of damage, keep the debuffs up, and get a good result overall. So this is the speed tune. I know I have it a little bit small right now. It might be a little bit difficult to like grasp all of this, but this is a team on Ultra Nightmare going against Void, right? If we change affinity, it's not going to matter because of Maneater. You can see we still block the debuffs even if we're going against Spirit. That's not going to have an impact on the actual run here. And as you can see, if we go through, I have all the champions in there from Helicath, Martyr, Seeker, Kreela, and Maneater. It's not going to make a difference. But how this team works, and I think this is important to take a minute and go over really quickly. How this team works is we have basically, and you can see here on turn 6, we fully fall in sync. We have Maneater going last after AoE 2, giving us that unkillable ability, as well as the block debuff for the stun. And then we have Helicath here going using that block damage right before the first AoE. And so Helicath's keeping us alive for the first AoE, Maneater for the second and the stun, and we are unkillable. And this will repeat all the way through this run. This is how you know you're in sync, when it starts repeating. Now, the way this works is we basically have Seeker on a 4-3 ratio, giving us a big turn meter boost. You can see that right here in turn 6 and 9. I'll expand this out a little bit, make it a bit easier to see. You can see that double turn that Seeker takes, gives us a turn meter boost, allowing our champions, Martyr, Helicath, and Maneater to take a double turn. And then again, on the second AoE, between the two AoEs, I should say, Seeker takes their double turn, using that turn meter boost at the end, allowing Krila and Maneater to again take a double turn. And this way, on that last stun, they all just take a single turn, and that's how we're making this work. We have Martyr, we have Helicath, we have Krila, all working on a 4-3 ratio, Seeker as well. And then we have Maneater going on a 5-3 ratio. So basically, everybody's taking 4 turns for every 3 turns the clan boss takes. Gives us a lot of extra attacks, a lot of ability to get real good damage out there, right? But, you know, there are some things that are going to be negatives with this. So, like, Martyr's counterattack ability, it's going to be drifting because she's on a 4-3 ratio into 3-turn cooldown. It's just going to kind of happen when it happens. That's not always the best thing in the world, but it's not always a terrible thing either, because it's going to be hard to keep counterattack up for the entirety of this fight. Now, one thing we could do, we could prioritize Martyr's A4, so that's on a 4-3 cooldown, and then we can make the A3, that counterattack ability, happen at the same time every time. That's definitely a solid way to approach this. Not necessarily the best, just, you know, another option out there. And so, you know, that's one of the things, if I was building this for myself and playing around with it, trying to make it better, those are things I would test out. We have Krila in here for that ally attack ability. Maybe I should go with the Draco, or if I had him, Farrakhan the Fat, right? Those would be wonderful choices as well. But the point is, there's lots of different ways to go about building this team. Any of those DPS slots, the Martyr slot, the Krila slot, you can absolutely sub in other champions for. One thing I will say is, I want to point out real quick on Nightmare here, as we look at, you know, Nightmare Affinity, you're going to notice that for these first 2 stuns, we do not have block damage up. We don't even have Unkillable up. Now, that's not an issue because early on, nobody's going to be dying, right, from the stun. But without the block damage, what that means is we need that stun to go to our DPS. It can't go to Seeker because that'll throw us off. It can't go to Helicath because that'll throw us off. And it can't go to Maneater because that'll throw us off. And so we need to make sure that those are occurring and hitting our DPS champions. Now, I did say it can't go to Seeker. That's actually not technically true, because you'll notice there is a 5-turn delay on Seeker's A2 ability here, especially on Nightmare. And so it is possible that Seeker might take this stun. That's okay, because we're actually not going to use the A2 until here on turn 4 and get us that turn meter boost. On Ultra Nightmare, it's kind of the same thing. If we go back up to the top, you'll notice we can use Seeker's ability on turn 3. That's actually a 3-turn cooldown, works just fine with Seeker here. But it also works if we do a 5-turn cooldown. So if on this first attack, let's put that down. If on this first attack Seeker does get stunned, it's an easy adjustment by continuing to use the A1 until we get to turn count 4, and then using that turn meter boost there. So there are, you know, definitely ways to make this work. This also works on Brutal, and yes, you can bring Ninja into this team, and I will showcase that team for you guys tomorrow. So just wait, and I'll go ahead and show you how that works tomorrow. So if you're really going, oh God, what do I do? It's pretty easy adjustment. I'll talk about that. And of course, if you guys want to see this actual speed tune and how it's all put together, just go to my website. I have it linked down below. I will have this tune up by the time this video is live, or very shortly thereafter, so you can find it there and read all about it and get all of our notes on it. So those are definitely some options for you guys. So that's the team. Let's go ahead, jump in the run, and then afterwards I'll show you guys the gear. Okay, so as we jump in here, I do have the first turn set to auto, so I don't have to worry about it in case, you know, I get too ambitious right off the beginning, right? So no big deals there. Now, one thing I got to be careful of is making sure the stun does not go to Helicath in this first turn, doesn't go to Maneater on this first turn, because we have to be careful about that, because we're going to not have them have the block debuff up for this first stun coming up. So I got to be careful about that. Because of that, I'm not going to use Martyr's counterattack ability right now. I don't want the stun accidentally guided to the wrong spot. Now, Maneater did A1 on the first attack, so we can go ahead and use the Unkillable ability here. We have a little delay, just 1 turn. Seeker has a 3-turn delay, and a 5-turn delay works as well in case Seeker happens to get stunned. So I'm just going to go ahead and wait a little bit on that Seeker attack, right? We A1'd right there. And then we have one more and we'll be able to go auto. Same thing with Helicath here, right? We have a 2-turn wait, I believe it is, with that, or 3-turn wait with his unkillable ability. So we need to A1 again, and then everybody else can kind of just use their skills, right? As we go through here. It's not going to matter who really takes the stun as long as it's not Maneater or Helicath. So I'm going to A1 here with Seeker again. There goes Kreela. Here goes Maneater. And we'll just make sure everybody has a shield from Helicath right there. Boom, stun goes to Martyr, exactly what we wanted it to. Works perfectly. At this point, I can click auto and everything is going to work. We're going to get the turn meter boost there from Seeker, get the unkillable from Martyr, or the block counterattack from Martyr, the unkillable here from Helicath, and we're fully in sync. We're not fully in sync, but we will be as it goes through, right? Everything's lined up to be fully in sync going forward. On this turn, Maneater's basically going to make everybody unkillable except for Kreela, and that's okay. Kreela's a DPS. You can take this one stun, but after this cycle, it's going to block this debuffs for the rest of the fight, so it'll work out just perfectly, just like I showed in the calculator. So it's nice, and you can see how effective this is. Getting ally attack is extremely powerful. Getting multiple attacks from your team is really, really strong. And obviously we don't have poisons in here, and that is a lot of damage that we are leaving on the table, but everybody is built pretty strong, so they should be doing decent damage anyway. Now we do have 2 spirit champions, right? Both Helicath and Martyr are spirit champions, and they're very strong spirit champions, so those weak hits are going to be problematic going forward, but again, that's something we can just deal with. I'm not too concerned about that. As you can see, we're already maintaining about a 1 million per turn pace. That's a pretty good pace. You know, I mean, if we ended up with 50-55 million as a result, I'd be very happy with that. And you can see there is a lot of damage potential in this. Just imagine if I were to use somebody like a Draco instead of even a Martyr. I think that actually would be a pretty big improvement with us. Or instead of a Kreela, I think that would be good. Or bring a Farrakhan the Fat in. Frankly, you could bring both Farrakhan and Kreela into the same team, and I think have a really good result. So this is a pretty effective way to get yourself to a 1 key if you wanted to. Definitely getting a pretty easy 2 key going, and it's going to work for all affinities, and it's going to work for all difficulties, which is really nice. And it just takes a little bit of manual setup to get rolling. So I don't want to talk too long into this. I know I showed the calculator, so it's a little bit longer than usual anyway. Let's jump towards the end of this run, and you guys can see what the final result is. I mean, 61 million is a really good result. It's very close to being a 2-key team. I'm very confident that if I actually built this to be a, you know, at the level I would expect from my squad and bring in some poisons on my team, even a couple toxic sets would do the job here. Very confident I could 1-key with this type of a team, and I think do so very consistently. So this is a pretty darn good team, and hopefully this is a really good option out there for you guys, especially those of you that have a Maneater and have a Helicath and want to figure out, how do I use these two together? This is a really awesome way to do that. I think this could work really well. Now, if you don't have a Seeker, it's not going to work. You have to have Seeker, you have to have Maneater, and you have to have some kind of block damage champion. This does work with a Warcaster, works with a Roshkar the Tower, a Sir Nicholas, or a Helicath. Any of those 4 champions can work with this squad. Demitha does not work with this team. Just saying. There's other builds using Demitha, so you don't want to rely on this one. But unfortunately, you do need that Seeker. You do need that Maneater. There's not really any solid alternatives out there for that. So that's the only limitation. But I think this is a pretty darn good team. Before we get too far, let's go ahead and look at the gear of these champions so you understand how I built them. I did build them well, just maybe not quite as good as, I could do on my own account. So let's start with one of the champions that I think works incredibly well with Helicath, Martyr. And Martyr is just absolutely amazing with both decreased defense on the A1 and a counterattack ability and increased defense ability on that A2. Just a perfect pairing, really. Now we have her at 182 speed. This is the slowest champion in this comp, and this is the speed that you need to hit at the low end. Now, actually, you can go a little bit lower. I think 179 works really well too. There is some balancing, and I did just build this for Ultra Nightmare. I'm not going to promise that these speeds will work perfectly for Nightmare as well, or Brutal, but I do know that this speed will work for Ultra Nightmare, obviously, because it's working. But just understand that, right? Make sure to double check everything in the calculator. We did give her good crit damage, good crit rate, and accuracy. Those are the things I'm really looking for, and then just as much defense as possible. Again, the sets, it doesn't matter. You don't need Stalwart. The Masteries, I didn't even finish because I don't really need them for this. All I really need for this is I do want that counterattack ability from the defensive tree so that I can benefit from Maneater and his Unkillable and still taking damage. I do want to make sure that I'm going down to War Master so I can get extra damage that way. Otherwise, it's not going to be really crucial as long as I'm not taking anything that affects turn meter. So I didn't fine-tune this. Just be aware of that. And then we've got Seeker, the champion that makes everything work and really pushes this team to the results it can get because of the turn meter boost that he brings. I'm talking about Seeker, who is just a really good champion for these types of teams. Obviously, 217 speed is great. That is kind of what we need. It's not super fast, it's not super slow, but it's very attainable speed, which makes this comp a lot nicer to build, I think. 3,800 attack, 250 crit damage. We try to bump that up as much as possible, and the sets I wasn't really concerned about. Same thing with the Masteries. I know you're going to be asking, can I bring in a Deacon Armstrong for this team? No, the Deacon just doesn't quite work for this team. Can I bring in a speed booster, a speed buff champion like Lydia or something? Doesn't quite work for this team. Seeker is unique because it's a 2-turn cooldown for that turn meter boost, and it's a 30% turn meter boost. Unless you have the same cooldown and the same turn meter boost, there isn't a substitution, and currently in the game there's nobody that does exactly what Seeker does, so he is essential to this squad. Then we have Maneater, who is one of the best unkillable champions in this game, obviously, and makes this team work because of the block damage or the unkillable ability, as well as the block debuff ability. And so we got him, he's the fastest in this team, 255 speed. He has to go at a 5-3 ratio, the only one that's doing that, in order to get all of his cooldowns working in this. And so I try to build his attack up, his crit damage, crit rate. You can see he should be slapping pretty decently hard for us, but again, pretty quick build that I put together for him. And of course, to pair with Maneater, we have Helicath, who is just an insanely good champion, one of my favorite champions in this game so far, and that block damage ability of his is absolutely wild. Now, this is not the best build to showcase what Helicath can do because we're not utilizing his shield, we're just utilizing the block damage ability, and there's other champions that can do that, but of course he does great damage and he brings that weaken debuff, so he is very valuable in these types of team. 274 crit damage, I built that up. Good defense, right? I mean, he is built very, very well, and this is the kind of build I'd want. High damage, high defense, and in that 190 speed range is what we're looking for on this, with good accuracy. If you can do that, you're going to be in really good shape. And of course, the very last champion is going to be Kreela Witcharm. Now, this is a champion where I think you can bring in pretty much anybody for this slot. You don't really need Kreela here, but she's an excellent option, so I definitely would encourage it because she brings ally attack, she brings increased attack as well as increased crit rate. I prefer a Farrakhan the Fat in this kind of a slot, but I think Kreela is a great option. But the real truth is, you can bring pretty much anybody that does DPS and doesn't bring turn meter with them. So there's lots of options out there that can work for you. A Poisoner would be great, someone that brings decreased defense would be great, but pretty much anybody you can bring into these slots. The big thing is hitting that speed. I got her at 214. There is some range in this. I think the bottom is 213, so just be careful. Try to make it something that can work for you. Only 70% crit rate because she is going to give herself that buff, as well as a 239 crit damage and decent attack at 4400. She should be doing good work for us. Maybe not the best champion, but she hits hard and will be a good addition for this team. So this is a pretty darn good team. I think you can see here there's a lot of potential to be able to 1-key or 2-key very easily with this type of a squad. And if you have a Maneater and a Helicath, this could be a really good option for you, especially if you can make the speeds but maybe don't have the best other champions or gear. You're getting so many attacks that getting a 2-key with this team should be really easy to do once you have those 3 champions, of course. So it's a really good option, I think, for a lot of you out there. I have to, before you get too far, I do have to give a big shout out to Xaavik for kind of creating this, coming up with this idea, as well as Facemelter and Optilink for helping to refine this even further. So those 3 are the ones responsible for creating this and having it on my Discord. It is on my website, so make sure to go check that out. Also, if you have a moment, hitting that subscribe, that notification bell does make a big difference, and I would appreciate it. We did just recently hit 50,000 subs, so I mean, just thank you guys so much for that amazing accomplishment. I have to say, I never expected to get to this kind of level, so thank you so much for that. I do want to push it to that next level. I'm trying to get to that next spot, you know. The next, always got to set another goal, and the next one obviously a big one. So whatever we can do to get there, every little step of the way does make a big difference, and I appreciate whatever you guys can do to help with that. That's all we got, guys. Make sure to check out the website. Until next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.